Welcome to part 4 of Presidents, Plutocrats, Paupers, and Populists, and now we're going to take a look at the assassination of James Garfield. So as I mentioned, Charles Guiteau, who is a full-time lunatic, was responsible for giving, we know, 2 stump speeches in New York City during the presidential campaign of James Garfield, right? Of course, Garfield wins the state of New York and those electoral votes. And had he not won those electoral votes, then Garfield would have lost the presidential election there of 1880. So in Charles Guiteau world, Charles Guiteau believes that James Garfield is president because he made him president with his awesome stump speeches. So as a stalwart, he goes to Washington, D.C. to get his spoils appointment. And there's a whole line of people lining up to get their spoils appointment, and it's being handled by people like Roscoe Conklin and other stalwarts, right? And James Garfield is like, yep, you guys enjoy this now. This is your last hurrah because I am dismantling the spoils appointment system. I needed you to get elected, but now I'm here, right? And Guiteau comes up and says, I'm here. I want to be ambassador to France. And the response of the stalwarts were like, dude, who are you, right? He goes, well, I'm the one who gave great stump speeches in New York City. I'm why Garfield got elected. They're like, man, we had a lot of people giving stump speeches in New York City. You're nobody. You want to be ambassador to France? We don't even know who you are. Get the hell out of here. And so Guiteau is sent packing. And needless to say, he's infuriated. How dare they? How dare they deny me my just deserves for my hard work? They will pay. Someone will pay. And he goes out and he purchases a British Bulldog revolver, a .45 caliber. And he plans his revenge. And he'll get it on July 2nd, 1881 at the Baltimore and Potomac Railroad Station. Garfield is only a few months into his term of office. He's at the railroad station. He's planning to meet up for his wife for a nice little break on the weekend, right? He's waiting there on the platform with his Secretary of State, James P. Blaine. No guards or anything like that. It's not something that's pretty common with the president at this point yet, right? Into the train station walks Guiteau. Seeing the president standing on the platform, he pulls the gun out and he shouts, I am a stalwart and Arthur will be president. And he fires and he grazes Garfield's right arm. Garfield turns in the confusion of the melee and Guiteau takes careful aim and fires again, this time striking the president square in the back. Now Guiteau puts the gun back in his pocket and casually strolls out of the train station as Garfield drops to the ground, right? And he turns the corner right into 2 big burly Washington, D.C. police officers who very quickly apprehend him. Okay. Now, Garfield now has been shot in the back, and he's laying on this platform here in Washington, D.C. The president's been shot. Somebody do something. Hurry. And a man quickly runs up to the president and says, I'm a doctor. Here, let me see. And he looks and he examines the president and says, where do you hurt? He says, my back. And rolls him over, sees the blood stain, and he reaches with his unwashed hand and he shoves his finger into the hole to see if he could feel the bullet as the president cries out in agony. Can't feel the bullet. It's pretty deep in there. Introducing God knows what into the wound. Now the president is returned back to the White House where he's taken under the care of his private physician, Dr. Willard Bliss. And no, that is not a typo. His parents literally named him Doctor. So when he became a doctor, he became Dr. Willard Bliss, and now that song's probably stuck in your head. Yeah, I mean, talk about setting expectations pretty high, right? Now, Dr. Bliss has been a doctor for a long time, and as a matter of fact, he's had a pretty controversial career. At one point when he was a young doctor, he actually kind of experimented with herbology and natural remedies, and he got accused of snake oil salesmanship, right? Quackery, and he almost lost his practice. Now he's the president's doctor, so he's really careful about what he buys into as far as technology. Now there's this new thing going all over Europe right now called germology, right? This idea that infections and stuff are caused by germs and that the pathway to keep an infection from spreading is cleanliness, washing your hands and sterilizing your equipment and wearing masks and stuff like that. And and there's even these new products like a product created by Joseph Lister called Listerine, antiseptic, right? Dr. Willard Bliss is not buying into that. He's like, oh, no, no, we ain't going down that road again. We tried that once when I was younger, and I almost lost my ability to practice medicine. So he became obsessed with getting the bullet out of the president's back. Now, this bullet had nicked the spine of the president, but had not threatened the spinal cord, and had come to rest in soft tissue. And honestly, he probably could have survived just fine with that bullet in his back. I mean, Lord knows how many bullets were floating around Andrew Jackson's body throughout his lifetime. But Dr. Willard Bliss, I'll just say Dr. Willard Bliss, and you can guess which doctor I'm using, becomes obsessed with getting this bullet out. And so he starts digging away, trying to get it. He can't find the bullet. He keeps digging some more, and he's using unclean instruments and his unclean hands, and he's slowly introducing more and more infection into the president's body, right? He even went so far as to recruit an inventor. Alexander Graham Bell, the inventor of the telephone, was also the inventor of a metal detector. And he brought it in to try and find the bullet in the president. And Alexander Graham Bell's using it on the president, and the thing is just pinging off the charts like, oh my God, there's metal everywhere, which kind of makes sense. He was on a metal spring bed. I mean, what do you want, right? But though that didn't help the president, it is going to be used, the metal detector will be used to find bullets in soldiers until the invention of the X-ray by William Conrad Roentgen in 1895, right? Now, infection is ravaging the president. I mean, this is how bad it is. Now, get ready. Make sure you're not eating anything before I tell you this, okay? At one point, President Garfield developed a pocket of pus in his sinus cavity. Remember, the wound's in his back. His body's so ravaged with infection that he got a pocket of pus in his sinus cavity, and it burst, and he almost drowned, right? Now, fortunately I say fortunately, mercifully, on September 19th, 1881, James Garfield is finally going to die, succumbing to infection, and Chester A. Arthur is going to become president. Chester A. Arthur inherits a hell of a mess. I mean, think about this. He becomes president after only the second time ever a president had been assassinated, right? For the first time, it's the first time that the actual assassin is going to stand trial, right? So he is going to be president during that. Charles Guiteau is going to put up let's just say a spirited defense. Remember, he's full-time lunatic. Okay, he's got that down pretty good. His lawyers are going to try and argue that Charles Guiteau is insane. So he's not guilty by reason of insanity. And this is one of the first times, not the first time, but one of the first times that this was ever attempted in a court of law in the United States as a defense, right? But Charles Guiteau is a horrible client because they're saying, our client is crazy. And Charles Guiteau is like, no, I'm not, right? Guiteau is saying that he didn't kill the president at all. I mean, he would stand up in the courtroom and shout out, I didn't kill the president. I just shot him. The doctors killed him. Is that wrong? I mean, I guess not entirely wrong, right? Because it was the infection that killed the president, but obviously the infection never would have started in the first place had he not shot him. At any rate, Charles Guiteau is found guilty, and he's sentenced to be executed. And he'll be executed 2 days before the anniversary of him shooting Garfield on June 30th, 1882. Okay. In this aftermath, though, we have President Arthur. Now, remember, Arthur was that spoils appointment. He's literally a spoils appointment. And now he is inheriting the presidency of a man who said he was going to take apart the spoils system. And he honestly feels honor-bound to do this. So despite the fact that he himself is a spoils appointment, he is going to stand up and run his administration as if it was Garfield's administration. He feels honor-bound to do so. So in January of 1883, Senator George Hunt Pendleton of Ohio is going to introduce a bill called the Pendleton Civil Service Act. The Pendleton Civil Service Act is designed to try and completely revamp the civil services, right? It's civil service reform, specifically when it comes to appointments of jobs. And one of the things that it does is it creates a merit system and an examination system for these appointments. In other words, you have to be able to prove that you're qualified to do the job you're appointed for. Spoil systems appointments sometimes would be, you'd have a guy appointed to the Postmaster General who had never even mailed a stamp or licked a stamp in his entire life, right? The Pendleton Civil Service Act, at least for government jobs, is going to revamp that, right? Now, this, of course, is going to be political suicide for Chester A. Arthur. When he finishes serving out this term of Garfield, right, and the presidential campaign of 1884 rolls around, he wants to be the Republican candidate for president, but the stalwarts won't back him because they see him as a traitor, a turncoat, right? And the half-breeds don't support him because even though he is supporting their side, they don't trust him, right? He has this long history as a stalwart, a long history as being a friend of Roscoe Conklin. That friendship is completely gone now, right? And so they don't trust him. And so instead, James Blaine gets a chance to go for the presidency, and he's going to go up against the Democrat nominee, Grover Cleveland.